Hello and welcome. Here on the channel, I tend to do a lot of videos such as banner reviews and coverage of limited time events. And the videos end up having a pretty short shelf life because of that, other than the live streams, of course. So I wanted to make something that could stand the test of time just a little bit more, and I want to offer advice to newer players as to what is maybe the most efficient way to unlock your dark memory characters, who to prioritize, what weapons to go for. And of course, this is going to vary quite a bit from account to account. And of course, if you just want to play the game the way you want to play it and you want to unlock someone because you love that character, that's awesome and go for it. But let's get right into it. Okay. As a first step, I can't recommend Lars and Lavanya enough. Okay, so let's head over to my character bank over here and talk about why. So Lars is going to be your first heavy-hitting DPS character. Okay, and the reason why, he has a crit hit damage passive. It's timed, but it allows you to take advantage of this 40% pretty often, okay? And he's hitting hard all the time, whereas a lot of the characters are going to have really conditional damage boosts that only apply in niche situations. Lars is hitting hard all the time, especially because his character skill, all he has to do is crit. And this thing hits hard without having to spend any awakening stones on him. He's probably going to be your first character that hits the damage cap. That's going to make a huge difference against a boss you're struggling against. If you come in with 3 hits that are hitting 1.5 million damage, you're going to sink that HP gauge very fast, okay? The only drawback is that it's a 3 hit. But like I said, he's so versatile, so flexible. Can't go wrong with Lars. Okay, then let's talk about Lavanya. Also super strong. He's got a timed vigor passive, an impressive base attack. Now this is awakened, so I believe unawakened it was in the 5,000s. The thing about Lavanya is he's very strong, but he also brings utility with this character skill with a defense break. 30% for 30 seconds. It's not the highest out there, but it's pretty good, and it's a 5-hit. You're going to want to really go for the 5-hit characters, okay? So maybe you even get Lavanya first, maybe get Lars first, but in any case, I highly recommend you get these 2 characters first. All right. So that would be step 1, in my opinion, is to aim for those 2 characters and or raise weapons to stage 8. That's when they become 5-star, and you can spend 5 cubes to raise a weapon to stage 8. To kind of fill in the gaps of your account, maybe you really need a fire weapon. Well, you're going to get that from Lars, but maybe you really need a water weapon, and you want to get the Yuri gun first, or maybe you're on the SEA server, you don't have Yuri yet, and maybe you go for the Noel spear or something like that because you really needed a water weapon. That's something to consider. So there's going to be some alternative strategies. And at each one of my steps, that's going to be the alternative, is just to kind of go for stage 8 weapons you might need. Okay, on to step 2. Now, this is where my advice might differ from someone else, but I'm going to go ahead and say it with 100% confidence. You want EX Griff next. This guy is deceptive, okay? Because you might look at the base attack and be like, 38, that's it, huh? It's like, oh, Pursuit, okay. We know Pursuit hits really hard. But it has to be a full 5 hits. Okay, that means you have to take his weapon. Well, obviously, you've taken his weapon all the way to stage 11, which that's when it gains the 5-hit skills. Obviously, you have to do that before you even get him, right? But it kind of backs you into that corner of needing a skill with 5 hits or relying on his character skill. But the main thing I'm trying to get to here is his character skill is deceptively strong. And time again, myself and even the top players out there, Griff is the go-to to do tons of damage in high end game content. And his niche is that the damage increases based on the length of the combo. So you want to do as long of a combo as possible and slap this skill right at the end. And often you're going to see him hit cap. And like I said, it's a 5-hit. So like there have been so many instances where Griff was the top DPS MVP for me in towers, in these challenge quests. Griff is the go-to, and he is sneaky good. You want Griff, okay? Other people, a lot of vets watch my channel, and they might feel differently, and that's what the comments section is for. Let me know how you feel if you disagree with anything I say. Like I said at the beginning, this is going to be slightly opinionated, but I still feel like the advice stands. Okay, so in this step, we talked about getting Griff, and the alternative is, let's say you got Lars and Lavanya, and you just really need to round out your roster of weapons because you're lacking depending on what limited costumes you have, what weapons you've been able to pull. So in that case, you might want to, for example, grab the 063Y sword or the Akeha sword. A lot of good weapons, and maybe you just want to grab something to fill in a gap in your account. The Fio Fist is a really strong light weapon, for example. Okay, so moving on to step 3. Step 3, in my opinion, I think you should get Saru. Saru is so good, and once again, you're going to look at it and be like, oh, what's with this base attack? I don't know. And you're really going to have to hit these conditions, right? Bolt Vigor. And that's a pretty steep requirement, having 100% HP. But 50% is a lot, and her weapon is going to stack with that. Okay, but she's a healer, you see? And she's going to help with chaining with this 3-hit. The other thing about her is this. Most people starting out, or even after playing for a while, water tends to be their weakest element, and going up against tough fire bosses can really be a challenge when you're lacking in water weapons. So not only is her weapon awesome on anybody, by the way, it even has a self-heal. It's going to stack even more Bolt Vigor onto the build, but this she has Blaze Guard. She's going to take reduced damage from those tough fire bosses, do great damage to them, and help keep the party alive. So I say your 4th character should be Saru. My opinion. Okay, so there are a lot of other good characters, right? So after that, let's say you did that. You got your 4 characters. You have Lars, Lavanya, Griff, and Saru. What to next? Now that's where it kind of opens up a little bit, in my opinion. The Yuri gun, this just came out, so if you're on Global, this is available. Her gun is stupid strong. It's got crit damage passive. She's naturally just a little bit fast. It doesn't reflect that here, but that's in her rank bonus. She's got an even better defense break. She would be a really good candidate to go for next after Saru, or maybe instead of Saru, depending on how you're feeling. Once again, she also has the Blaze Guard. All of them have that as their second passive, the resisting the element that they like to go up against. Okay, at this same point, you might opt for 063Y. Now, it's very niche, but he's going to be one of your top DPS in Subjugation. It's just an incredible pain in the neck to fulfill that condition. His HP needs to be super low. So here, less than HP for max of 20%. And it's a 5-hit. So once again, other players that have been playing as long as me, they might recommend him sooner in my order. Very sought after, but you'll find that when he's not hitting that condition, his damage is kind of disappointing. Even considering the fact that he's got respectable base attack. I've used him recently and just been really disappointed at his regular damage. Okay, so let's take a look at who else I've pulled. I've gotten to the point where I can just kind of like expand out, get people that I like, and I'm at the point now where I'm getting new weapons just because I want to take the weapon itself to stage 11. That's why I got Demos. And that's why I got Theo. So Demos has a dark gun, Theo has a light fist. I got Marie because her weapon is one of only 3, which by the way, Theo also has the crit rate on the sub, and Marie's weapon was the 3rd one. If you've already got Lars, then you're good to go with the first one, the Fire Sword. Okay, so I got Marie so that I'd have another really nice 20% crit rate in the subs and have the weapon all the way to stage 11. Her character is kind of not the most useful, although might I say it's the most beautiful costume in the game. Okay, cool. So let's head back over. Just look at the whole thing here. Give some other honorable mentions. Gail and Akeha are very useful. A lot of people get them way early on. In fact, when the game launched, everyone was really gunning for Gail because at the time she was PvP queen. She's very fast. She has a passive of timed agility 40%. Theo does too, but she's not that strong. And I've managed to get by without ever getting Gail or Akeha. Now, the Akeha sword is great because it has an AoE, which can be cool for certain arena shenanigans. Okay, and then Rion and F66X were kind of the last weapons I raised to stage 8. They're both cool, but if you've gotten other healers or other healing weapons, they're not super high priority. And this F66X, unfortunately, she's just kind of dead in the water, doesn't do much. She's just kind of tanky and whatever. Okay, so other honorable mentions. Other people might suggest that you get Noelle earlier in that whole sequence. She's very tanky. She's got a nice water weapon. And I haven't got her yet. I've been okay without her on my account. And then Priyat has just a ton of the training passive that increases your chance at doing chaining a normal attack. And pretty niche, not so useful, but I am on the verge of getting this character. I just needed one more cube because I wanted a really strong wind weapon, and that's the only reason I did that. Argo also has an AoE on the spear, but he's just kind of a high defense character. Doesn't offer too much. And I think that covers just about everyone. Cool. So why don't we recap that really quick? So once again, step 1, go for Lars and Lavanya, unless you really need to fill out some weapons in your roster and take those weapons to stage 8. Step 2, get Griff, the high end-game content DPS MVP. Or if you at that point, you got your nice strong characters up here, Lars, Lavanya, maybe you just really need some stage 8 weapons. Maybe you really need that dark greatsword, the fire greatsword, the wind fist, or whatever it is you need. Step 3, I say get Saru. She's so awesome. She's tanky, she survives, she heals. Her weapon is one of the best water weapons in the game. And by the way, these weapons are great on anybody. Like, it doesn't matter if it's the same weapon type. Your best DPS strategy in this game is to use, unless you're trying to be fast in arena, it's to use main hand EX weapons. Even if you feel like you have a really good weapon of a certain element and it's the correct weapon type, an offhand EX weapon is going to hit harder. They all have, as the first skill, they all have an element buff. that makes the second skill hit super hard. But I should mention that if you're using the Gail sword or the Priet fist, the second weapon skill is Pursuit, and you'll actually do more damage if you hit that Pursuit buff first, the skill 2, and then the skill 1. Okay, then step 4, things open up just a little bit, and at that point you can just kind of go for what your account needs the most, character-wise or weapon-wise. And you see at every step I've mentioned that here's the character I think you should get next, but if you really need to expand your weapon roster, do that instead, and then maybe go for that character. So the honorable mentions at step 4, I would say 063Y for niche, caged vigor, low HP damage in subjugation, etc. Maybe even tower or other endgame content. Yuri for the awesome weapon, and she's just a good balanced character that's kind of fast. Akeha for a very high attack character and a really awesome AoE hitting weapon. Noelle for a tanky character with a strong water weapon that actually has a defense passive. Both of the water spears are kind of disappointing because of the defense passive, unless they do more with that defense meta. Okay, Gail, because she's fast, she kind of lacks in firepower, but has a good wind weapon. And also, I want to mention that both Akeha and Demos have an AoE character skill that kind of kills their potential, because usually you'd rather have a multi-hit that can help you burst a boss down, rather than an AoE, which is mostly valuable, when coming up against mobs. And usually you don't really have trouble with the mobs. Okay, the other option at this point, once again, is stage 8 weapons, but maybe at this point you just decide to get the rest of the weapons to stage 8. And reviewing what I did, I know that I got Lars, Lavanya, and Griff first, and then I spread out. This is personally what I did. I spread out and got a bunch of different stage 8 weapons. That was a really effective strategy for me. When I was finally ready to get my 4th, I can't remember at this point. It must have been 063Y and then Saru. In any case, I think at least those 5 would be pretty safe bet to get those first. Except for at this point, the Yuri gun is so good. Then we saw that with Quest 2, where a lot of people were complaining that because they didn't have the Yuri gun, they didn't think they were going to be able to pass it. All right, really curious to hear what your thoughts are. If you're a beginner or if you're a vet and you totally disagree with me, again, leave it in the comments. Let's have a discussion. But this is how I feel about it. I think this is a really effective strat for a new player. So whether you're on the SEA server or you're starting out in global, consider this advice. Okay, and that's all I want to cover in this video. Thanks so much for watching, and like and subscribe to help me grow the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.